Hello once again, all of you lovely people. Welcome to the fourth part of this little crash course, module 1, about production, where we go into the basics of the basics for all of you beginners out there who just wants to learn how to produce and make your songs sound at least decent without getting too technical about it. So in this one, I'm gonna go through the very, very basic parts of plugins, or how you can affect the sound you recorded to sound a bit cooler or better. You know, stuff like reverb or echo, as some people will call it, and just how to briefly make your recorded sound a little bit more interesting with some very basic tools. So let's take a listen here to a vocal of mine that I recorded a while back. This is without anything on it, so it's dry. It's just how it sounded when I recorded it. And we're gonna make this sound more interesting, so you can do this for yourself in your own projects. Because if you've tried to record some vocals by now, you might have noticed that they sound a bit dry and a bit weak, maybe. And I will teach you how to stray from that, or how to get rid of that boring quality to it. So let's check it.
And I won't let it slip away, and I won't beg for you to stay. It's funny how the mind that keeps us sane can break us down so easy.
Okay, so that's what it sounds like. And to me, that's first of all very quiet and too dynamic, which means the volume of my singing goes up and down in volume a lot during the singing, which is not very desired for a modern song. Today we want vocals and stuff to sound very even in volume, so it doesn't go up and down too much, so the ear can hear the vocal at all times without it disappearing. So if we click our track here, you'll most likely, if you use Cubase, see this little thing. Here you have a inserts tab. So if you click here, you'll get a bunch of empty slots right here. This is where you can add your effects, pretty much. So if we open this, or if we click here, you'll get a list of, your list is probably not going to look the same. I have a bunch of custom things and stuff I've bought over the years. So you'll probably see a more basic list here, but don't worry, you'll have everything that I use in some sort of way. The tools are universal, they're just different companies and different looks of them. But they essentially do the same thing. So let's start off with a compression. So I'm just gonna add the stock compressor from Cubase. And I'm gonna make a more in-depth video on compression in the next module of this crash course, but to simplify it now for you, why we need one of these. A compressor does exactly what I said we needed for the vocal. We want the vocal to sound even and not fluctuate in volume up and down too much. And a compressor takes the lowest part of a recorded sound, the lowest volume points and the highest volume points, and pushes them together to create a more even sound. So that's all a compressor does essentially. There's some more advanced stuff to it, but that doesn't matter to us right now. So if you have no idea what all of this does, it might look terrifying. Let's just find a preset. That's the easiest way if you don't really care. So let's find a preset that we feel works. Let's try hard lead vocals in your face. That sounds like it's gonna even it out quite good. And I'm gonna turn down the volume on my track here, because compression can also increase the volume.
and I won't let it slip away, and I won't beg for you to stay. It's funny how the mind that keeps us sane can break us down so easy.
Okay, this one didn't have any, okay, makeup gain.
Slip away, and I won't beg for you to stay. It's funny how the mind that keeps us sane can break us down so easy.
Okay, so there we go. We got a more even sounding vocal, which is great.
And I won't let it slip away.
Then all of the nuances of the vocal and details, they come out a bit better. And this is the very, very basic of compression. I'm definitely gonna cover more advanced compression to get it just right, to get it sounding amazing. But that is for the people who are more interested in mixing. So next up, let's just put an EQ on this. Same here, I'm gonna look for the Cubase built-in EQ. I think it's called frequency now. I think they changed the name. Yeah, it's frequency. So what an EQ does, very simple. A sound contains frequencies, right? Frequencies are what makes up the sound. Some frequencies we don't need because there's the room you record in, it's gonna resonate, it's gonna give some weird frequencies in there that could be either harsh to the ear or just very like boxy or very muddy sounding frequencies, and if you cut those out, you'll clean up the sound and make it sound better. So I'm gonna keep it very simple with this EQ. So let's just use this first point right here. It doesn't matter which EQ you use, by the way. Any EQ will do essentially the same thing. And okay, I've never used this one before, so let's see here. So let's look for a cut. It's either gonna be called a high pass or a low cut or just cut, like here. And I'm gonna go with the numbers next to it just represents how hard the cut will be. I'm gonna go into depth about this in the next module as well. So let's just take cut 24. And then we move this, and you'll see down here the frequency changes as I move this. It just tells us from which frequency and below we're cutting on this track. So I'm just going to take out about 100 hertz on the vocal, because down there from 100 hertz and below there's just a lot of like noise, rumble noise from the microphone or whatever, and that's not necessary to keep in there. And then we do the same thing up here by the 8th dot. We're gonna cut from above instead of from below. Or no, actually let's not do that. That's not very necessary for vocals. Let's check what this little low cut did. This is without it.
And I won't let it slip away, and I won't beg for you.
And with it.
And I won't let it slip away, and I won't beg for you to stay. It's funny how the mind that...
So you can just play around with how much you want to cut. For some microphones and some vocals and some rooms, you might want to cut more. And if you want to play around with EQ some more, this is just a quick little trick you can do if you just want to play around with it and have fun. So you can take one of these peak bells, as they're called, and adjust the Q value. If you see, when I pull this up, this thing becomes more narrow, and if I pull it down, it becomes more wide. Go for a fairly narrow one, and as you play the vocal, you just sweep around and you find the nasty frequencies, and you can just pull it down a little bit, but don't go overboard. Don't do this with like You don't have to find 15 nasty frequency areas and pull them down. You're gonna ruin the sound. But do it with maybe 1 or 2 of these, just to play around. So let's check.
And I won't let it slip away.
So to me, that sounded very boxy, or like a tin can or something. So let's pull that down a little bit and see what that does.
And I won't let it slip away. And I won't beg for you to stay.
And that cleans up the vocal a little bit. If your vocal sounds harsh, you can also check around this area between 3,000 hertz to about 5,000 hertz. Around there, you can find some harsh frequencies and just pull them away. So, moving on to something more interesting. Reverb. So I'm gonna use Revelation, which is also a Cubase stock reverb. And reverb is essentially this.
Let it slip away.
Echo. And if you want a modern song, you don't want that much of reverb in there. So first I'm gonna change this to another type of reverb. They sound different. You can play around with that. And then you have a mix knob here. And the mix knob determines how much of the signal is gonna be reverb and how much is gonna be the recorded direct signal that you recorded. Sorry, that was my phone. So let's check here.
And I won't let it slip away. And I won't beg for you to stay.
And then you have a tail here where you can determine how long the reverb is gonna be.
And I won't let it slip away. And I won't beg for you to stay.
And here you have also, this one is, this reverb plugin is a bit different than others, but usually decay is what determines how long the reverb rings out, and that's all you need to know. So mix and decay, it's gonna be the most important for you right now. And then we can also play with delay. And delay, the difference between delay and reverb is something I'll explain in the mixing module, but delays and reverbs, delay basically repeats what it hears. So if I say hey, the delay is gonna play hey afterwards, while a reverb just kind of simulates you being in a certain atmosphere, like a church or in a cave or whatever. So this is what a delay does. Delay.
Let it slip away.
So that can be used for creative effect in a lot of ways. And then you can EQ the delay here to make it so it doesn't take as much space in your mix.
Let it slip away.
And that's fairly easy. You can just play with these until the delay sounds the way you want it to. And I think that should be enough for this basic tutorial, actually, because we're getting a bit too far into the mixing realm. And I just wanted to show you how you can easily shape your sound to sound a bit more interesting. And I think I covered that pretty good. Also, feel free to play around with plugins. I mean, look through this list, put them on, see what they do. Sometimes you'll find something really cool, and that's awesome. Innovation is key to creativity, in my opinion. So just be creative, play around, have fun. That's what this is about, right? So thank you for stopping by and watching this one as well. I really appreciate you guys. Hope you learned something. Tell me in the comment section below if there's anything I can clear up for you, if there was anything you wondered about. Most of these plugins I will go through in the mixing module, so very in-depth as well. So you'll learn exactly what they do, how they work, and why I use them or why we use them, and in what situation and all that. So yeah, thanks again. Leave a comment, subscribe, like, share with your friends. Let me know if there's anything else that you want me to do. If there's any videos you want to request or whatever, or you just want feedback. All right, take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.